The salvage ship Grave Dancer drifted through a silent stretch of space near a dying star. Its hull was old and patched, its engines wheezing with every slow burn. Inside, a small crew of 5 humans watched glowing monitors with tired eyes. They had been flying for weeks, chasing faint signals, broken satellites, lost cargo, anything worth credits. Then something unusual appeared. "Got a ping?" said Daxon, the ship's scanner tech. His voice trembled a little, though he didn't know why. "It's big. Real big. No ID tag. Just floating." Captain Ray leaned over his shoulder. The object on the screen was shaped like a claw or a fang. Long, sharp edges. Dark metal that absorbed the nearby starlight. "Military?" she asked. "No markings, no transponder, not human." That caught everyone's attention. The crew geared up, zipped into thick suits, and launched their boarding skiff toward the drifting structure. As they neared it, the size became clear. It wasn't a ship, it was a fortress, a warship, larger than anything humans had ever built. Daxon stared through the viewport. "This thing, it's not dead," he said. "It feels like it's waiting." Inside, everything was dark, silent. The hallway they entered was tall at least 10 meters. High and wide enough for a tank. Strange claw marks were etched into the walls, not like battle damage, more like trophies. Flickering lights revealed bones scattered across the floor. Some were larger than the crew themselves. One skull had 6 eye sockets and rows of sharp, broken teeth. "Nothing here matches any alien species we know," Ray whispered, "but it looks like a battlefield or a slaughterhouse." They split up carefully, radios crackling between them. Each step echoed in the emptiness. They found empty chambers, shattered weapons, and strange statues made of metal and bone. Then, in what looked like a command room, Daxon found the final log. He pressed play. Static. Then a deep, snarling voice filled the room. "This message is for the next predator. We were the Varnock, apex of the stars. Born in fire, we hunted across galaxies. We never knew fear. Until Earth. Until humans." There was a pause. The voice cracked. They were weak, but they learned. They adapted. They turned us into prey. "If you find this, run." The recording cut off. A scream, a roar. Then silence. Daxon turned to his crewmates, pale and shaking. "Did he say humans?" Back on the Grave Dancer, Ray gathered the team. "That warship out there, it's the last trace of a species that used to rule the galaxy. The Varnock. And we killed them all." "No records of that in Earth history," said Tyra, the comms officer. "Then someone made sure we forgot," Ray said. They returned to the wreck. The AI on board was still half functional. It opened more files. More logs. Images of Varnock warriors flashed bio-towering. Brutal creatures with armor made from the bones of their prey. They destroyed fleets, crushed planets, ruled for centuries. Then came the human ships. Smaller, slower, but clever. Recordings showed humans luring Varnock into traps, poisoning their food supply, disabling their war tech. One by one, the mighty hunters fell, and then the defenders arrived. They weren't soldiers in the usual sense. They were assassins, strategists, hunters of hunters, trained only to kill Varnock. No faces shown, no names spoken. A voiceover in one of the logs said, "Where war failed, fear succeeded. We made the Varnock afraid." More logs followed. One showed a Varnock warlord nearly 15 feet tall, hiding alone in a cave on a frozen world. His claws bloody, his armor cracked. The final shot was of a human figure, covered head to toe in black, stepping into the cave. Then, static, Captain. Ray stood silently, watching. "We wiped them out," she said, "completely. But why was it kept secret?" Tyra asked. "Why is this the first time we're hearing of them?" "Because we weren't supposed to find this wreck." Outside, the warship's reactor core blinked, still alive, still pulsing. The ship didn't want to be touched. It's like it was holding on to something. Or someone. Tyra screamed over the cum's movement. I saw movement down the corridor, but by the time the others arrived, nothing was there, just a faint trail of blood. Old blood. Thick and black. They swept the area, scanners out, weapons ready. Then, a cold chamber at the far end of the ship, they found something. Breathing. A stasis pod. Cracked. Inside it a Varnock, smaller than the others. Maybe young. Its eyes opened. For 1 second, nothing moved. Then the creature slammed its claws against the glass. The crew stumbled back. "We have to go," Ray said. But Daxon hesitated. "What if it's the last one, the last of its kind?" Ray stared at the pod. The Varnock's eyes locked. On hers, intelligent, furious, not afraid. "Exactly," she said. "The last one. Let's keep it that way." They ran back on the Grave Dancer. The crew launched emergency beacons, marking the ship's location, but encrypting the data. Only military would be able to decode it. As they drifted away, the Varnock ship slowly turned. Engines dead. Weapons gone. But somehow it moved. Tyra turned to the captain. "Do you think that one will survive?" Ray didn't answer at first. Finally, she said, "Does it matter? If even one Varnock's alive. The galaxy is not safe." She looked out at the stars. "Let's hope we didn't just wake up a nightmare." Behind them, the beacon pulsed in silence. The wreck floated near the dying star, its shadow spreading like a claw, and inside, something ancient remembered humanity's face, something that would never forget, never forgive. The hunt was not over. Not yet. The Varnock were not born in space. Long ago, before they ruled the stars, they crawled from the ash of their own dying world, a planet of lava seas, razor storms, and endless predators. Their sun had nearly collapsed. Their oceans had boiled. Their sky was always red. The weak did not survive there. Only the clever, the cruel, and the fast. The first Varnock tribes hunted each other for generations. There were no nations, no peace, only blood. Victory meant food. Failure meant extinction. Their bones grew thick. Claws became like steel. Their minds sharp and cold. They did not invent mercy. They invented war. The Varnock learned to build machines not for farming, for hunting. Their first rockets were not for space travel. They were used to fire massive spears across mountains, to destroy rival dens from afar. Their computers were designed to calculate enemy patterns, not store data. Eventually, they looked up at the stars and saw a new kind of prey. The first alien species they encountered was peaceful, tall, fragile, and curious, called the Sevelin. They reached out with open hands, eager to share knowledge. The Varnock responded with fire. Within days, the Sevelin homeworld was burning. Cities melted, their leaders torn apart. Every signal they sent became a trap. When the galaxy first heard of the Varnock, the warning came too late. Soon, other species fell. One by one, some tried to hide, others tried to fight. Few escaped. Civilizations vanished. Records lost. Names forgotten. In less than 100 years, the Varnock had carved a warpath across 5 sectors. Their empire had no borders, no capital. Only warships, massive, dark, and sharp like knives. They named them after ancient predators from their homeworld: Razor Maw, Sky Eater, Voidfang. Each Varnock warrior earned their place through blood. Every kill was recorded in armor. Every defeat was punished with exile, or worse. But even in conquest, they obeyed one law: hunt the strong. Spare the weak. The strong will rise again. They didn't kill for sport. They killed to evolve. From destroyed worlds, they took survivors. Not to enslave, but to test, to study, to break. They watched how different species reacted to pain, to fear, to loss. And they learned. Among them rose leaders, not kings, but alphas. The greatest hunters. The most feared was Krail, the unseen, who wore the skulls of generals and moved without sound. Another was Sithrex, who led the burning of 12 systems with only 3 warships. Together, The Alphas built the Circle of Claws, a council that decided when and where the next hunt would begin. No planets were spared unless deemed too weak to challenge. And for a long time, the galaxy had no answer. The Varnak didn't just win, they made others forget hope. Then they heard of Earth. At first it was just a whisper. A primitive blue planet with strange chatter on ancient radio waves. Nothing special. Not advanced. Not dangerous. A probe was sent. It was never seen again. The Circle laughed. Perhaps the prey destroyed themselves, Sithric said. Many do. Still they sent a scout team 12 Varnak hunters, elite and silent. They arrived on Mars, hidden from Earth's view. But humans had already colonized Mars. The Varnak stepped out of their ship. They expected screams, panic. They found traps, landmines laced with acid, sonic disruptors hidden in soil, and a strange gas that burned through their armor. Within minutes, 3 hunters were dead. The rest retreated, confused and furious. They had never seen prey fight like this. Still, they attacked again, this time on a small human colony near Neptune. No backup. No warning. But the humans didn't run. They fought. And something new happened. Varnak died, not from mistake or bad luck, but from strategy. His killer was a human soldier with no armor, just a homemade railgun and perfect timing. His name was never known. His body was vaporized in the blast, but his face was recorded in the Varnak's memory logs. The Varnak remembered him. They showed his image to their young. This is what danger looks like, Krall said, back on their warships. The Circle watched footage of human resistance. They saw patterns, the way humans adapted, learned, took risks even when outnumbered. The Circle debated. They are not ready. One Alpha growled. Their weapons are weak. Their fleets are scattered. But their minds, Sithric said, quietly, their minds are not prey. The Varnak studied Earth more closely. They watched how humans fought each other, how they trained even in peace, how they created weapons faster than any other species in history, and how, despite their differences, they united when truly threatened. Still, the Circle moved forward. The hunt began. A full war fleet was sent. 20 ships, over 2,000 Varnak. They expected a short campaign, a warning to the galaxy that even this Earth would fall. But the first fleet never returned at first. The Varnak assumed malfunction, delays. Then they found the wreckage. The warships were torn apart, not from outside, but from within. Boarding scars, explosions near the bridge, fires that were clearly set by hands, human hands. A single message was found, scorched into the side of a Varnak hull with a plasma torch. Where? Not the hunted anymore. The Circle was silent. For the first time in their history, the Varnak faced a question they had never considered. What if the prey had become the predator? From that moment, everything changed. The Varnak no longer charged into battle. They began scanning their territory for human signals. They stopped collecting trophies, because now they were being hunted. The galaxy watched in shock. Stories spread quickly. Planets once ruled by Varnak started to rebel. Other species whispered Earth's name like a legend. A single planet had done the impossible. But humans didn't stop there. They sent messages, warnings. They said the Varnak had taken too much, caused too much pain, and now it was time for balance. Some thought Earth would negotiate. They didn't. They prepared something else, something darker. But that part of the story had not yet arrived. For now, the Varnak still controlled much of the galaxy, still feared, still dangerous, but something inside them had changed. They had looked into the eyes of a new kind of hunter, and for the first time, they blinked. The galaxy never saw it coming. While the Varnak prepared their next assault, Earth was already moving, quietly, carefully, in shadows. Humans knew the truth. The Varnak were stronger, faster, more experienced in war. A direct fight would be suicide. But Earth had something else: strategy. The first strike didn't come from warships or armies. It came from silence. Entire communication hubs in Varnock space went dark. No explosions. No signs of attack. Just silence. At first, the Circle of Claws believed it was a glitch. Then, data centers began to corrupt. I-systems shut down mid-sentence. Entire star charts erased. The Varnock didn't understand how could prey destroy a signal buried in a vault under a neutron star. They searched for sabotage. Nothing. They increased patrols. Still nothing, but Earth already knew how to hide in plain sight. On a moon called Vega 4, near the edge of Varnock territory, an outpost full of Varnock scientists studying new weapon tech simply vanished. When scouts arrived days later, they found a single message burned into the ground with fusion charges. "We're already here." Panic spread through the circle. It fought hundreds of species, crushed dozens of rebellions, but none had ever disappeared their enemies like this. No fleets, no armies, just shadows. Threats written in wreckage. The Varnock called them ghost killers. The humans called them defenders. Earth had trained them in secret. Elite units of operatives with no names. No public records. Experts in infiltration, sabotage, and psychological warfare. Their job wasn't to win battles. It was to unmake the Varnock from the inside. These defenders studied the Varnock for years before the first strike, learned their language, memorized their customs, built maps of their empire down to every power node and food line. They used captured tech to disguise their signals. They learned to walk like Varnock, talk like them, think like them. And when the moment came, they struck deep. One defender, unit nicknamed Shade Team, infiltrated a massive Varnock command vessel known as the Void Maw, a floating fortress home to thousands. It had never been boarded in its 300 years of service. Shade Team made it to the core in 40 minutes. They didn't plant explosives. They did worse. They reprogrammed the ship's AI. Suddenly, the Void Maw started firing on its own fleet. Other Varnock ships returned fire, confused. In less than 10 minutes, 6 vessels were destroyed by their own side. Only after the smoke cleared did the message appear on every screen. In the Varnock's own language, this is not war. This is extermination. Back on Earth, no news outlets covered the events. The public didn't know. The Defender protocol was classified. Only top brass and the operators knew what was happening, Captain. Ray, years before she ever found the drifting Varnock wreck, was one of them. A planner, a handler. She never wore a Defender uniform, but she picked the targets, proved the missions, watched the galaxy burn from behind her desk. She had always believed it was the only way. Until one day, the plan nearly failed. A mission on the Varnock hive moon of Larnix 12 went wrong. Too much noise. A Defender was captured. First time ever, the Varnock dragged the human before the circle. A female soldier. Eyes steady, silent. They asked questions. She smiled. Then she activated a neural detonator in her skull. Took out 3 alphas with her. The Varnock were furious, terrified. They'd never seen such cold, calculated defiance. Warriors begged to face this human death cult, an honorable combat. But there was no army to fight, only ghosts. And then came Earth's first official message to the galaxy, to those still under Varnock rule: your days in chains are ending. To the Varnock, you are not gods, you are not legends, you are prey. We are the defenders of the fallen. We are coming. The message broadcast in every known frequency. On every planet under Varnock control, in every language, the reaction was chaos. Rebellions broke out. Enslaved species grabbed knives and fought back. Mining colonies turned their drills into weapons. Old warlords fled. Some Varnock tried to crush the uprisings quickly, but behind every revolt is a defender. Whispers of Earth spread faster than fire. And with each strike, humanity's reputation grew darker. They weren't noble warriors. They were precision killers. No speeches. No peace talks. Just targets. Eliminated. Still, Earth had a plan. They didn't want to rule the galaxy. They didn't want planets or slaves. They wanted balance. They wanted the Varnock. It's gone. But balance has a cost, and that cost was secrecy. No human citizen knew the full truth. Only that the galaxy is a dangerous place, and we are watching. Behind smiles and news reports, the real war continued until one day. Earth received a message they didn't expect, not from the Varnock, but from someone else, a species long thought extinct. Once conquered by the Varnock, it's now hidden in deep space. The message was short. We remember your kindness. We remember your fire. But you must know, one still lives. It's the first one, and he remembers you. The transmission ended. Earth's top command stared at the screen. Silence filled the war room, the first one. No records mentioned him, no files, no missions targeting a Varnock with that title. Who was he? And why did the message sound more like a warning than a thank you? In space, on a forgotten wreck, orbiting. A dead star. Something stirred. A pod. Cracked, humming inside, claws twitched. Eyes opened, the last of his kind. The first Varnock. And he had seen everything. His memories were long. His hatred, endless. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. In the dark corner of the galaxy, beyond any known star maps, a long-dead system quietly pulsed to life. A machine came online. Its signal was weak, old, made from ancient Varnock tech, long before the war fleets, before the Empire. A distress beacon. But coded in a dialect no living Varnock used anymore. It had been silent for thousands of years, until now, the beacon awoke the pod. And inside that pod, he opened his eyes. He didn't speak. He didn't move. Not at first. He simply remembered the pain, the betrayal, fire. The first one had been locked away when the Varnock still hunted with blades and bone, when their homeworld was fire and storms. He was the original Alpha, not born of battle, but of something older, something deeper. Back then, the Varnock were beasts with minds. But he was a mind with claws. He united them, made them more than savages, taught them tactics, structure, codes of dominance. His rule was absolute, until the others turned on him. They feared his ideas. He had said the hunt must one day end, that to survive, they must evolve past war.
Balance.
But they laughed. They saw mercy as weakness, unity as a threat, and so they betrayed him. They sealed him in a biostasis pod, buried him under layers of rock and machines, beneath a broken moon in an abandoned system. Then they erased his name from history. But he didn't die. He waited. And now, finally, someone had tripped the beacon. Someone had broken enough of the Varnock's empire to shake the old network. That someone was human. He didn't know what they looked like, but he knew one thing for sure. They were not afraid. He liked that. With a slow hiss, the pod opened. Claws dragged against the cold steel, his body huge, thick with armor. Older than any ship still flying and folded like a nightmare rising from sleep. He stepped out. No armor. No weapons. He didn't need them. Not yet. He looked up at the ruined ceiling of his prison. The stars were waiting. Back on Earth, alarms went off in deep space tracking stations. A signal had been found. Varnock origin, but unregistered. It came from outside known territories, deep past the neutral zone. At first, Command dismissed it. Old junk, maybe? Leftover tech from a dead war? But then the pattern changed. The signal was responding and learning. Earth's AI decryptors couldn't make sense of the code. It pulsed like speech, but not modern Varnock. It was older, more primal. Captain Ray, now overseeing orbital defense coordination, read the report 3 times. This isn't random, she said quietly. It's a wake-up call. She wasn't wrong. The defenders listening to deep space chatter caught strange signals too. Ships in nearby systems reporting phantom echoes. Missing drones. Blurred footage of something massive moving between asteroid fields but too fast, too quiet. Then, from an old Varnock science outpost came a message. A live video feed. The crew, 3 alien researchers and 1 human observer, were screaming. A shadow moved behind them. Something tall. Too tall, then static, then black, then nothing. The feed cut out Earth. Launched 2 scout ships to investigate. Only 1 returned. The surviving pilot was barely conscious. Her ship was damaged, nearly shredded by something inside the hull. When medics pulled her from the wreck, she whispered just 3 words before fainting. "He's not dead." Back on Earth, the phrase spread like wildfire through encrypted channels. He's not dead. No name, no face, just fear. The Varnak, still recovering from Earth's secret war, picked up the same signals. They recognized the dialect, and they panicked, because even they had stories of him. The one who first hunted the hunters. The one their ancestors buried. Not because he was weak, but because he was too strong, too different. Some called him the First Claw. Others simply said, "He who judges." The Varnak feared him more than death, and now he was free. Meanwhile, deep in a hidden bunker on Mars, the leaders of Earth's Defender program held an emergency meeting. This wasn't part of the plan. Commander Talek growled, staring at the projection of the ancient signal. "We built our strategy around their current leadership. Nada. Ghosts from their past." Captain Ray stepped forward. "We don't even know what he wants," she said. "He's not attacking planets. He's not making demands. Maybe he's watching," someone whispered. Everyone went quiet. That was worse, because an enemy that watches learns. Outside the room, Earth's defense grid went into full alert. All ships were called. All stations on high alert if the first one was a myth before. He wasn't now, and Earth had no idea how to stop him. Far away. The first one walked through the ruins of a Varnak relay station. He saw the bones of his people, crashed under metal and fire. Human signs burned into the walls. Defenders were here. He crouched beside a skull, picked it up gently. Still soft, he murmured in his old tongue. He wasn't angry. He was curious. These humans. Ago, end the endless war. Maybe they understood, or maybe they were just better hunters. Either way, he would find them. He would test them, and if they failed, he would end them. Not because he hated them, but because they dared. And in his eyes, daring was the same as declaring war in the shadows of the galaxy. Both humans and Varnak began whispering the same question. Is this the beginning of a new war, or something worse? Because when the first one awakens, no one is safe. The stars held their breath. After the ancient signal echoed through space, both Earth and the Varnak Empire waited, searching, scanning, fearing, but there were no fleets, no attacks. Just silence. In one moving shadow, he was never on the sensors for long. Ships passed through sectors where he'd been. Wreckage floated silently, not destroyed in battle, picked clean. Like prey taken apart by something smarter, older, and always left behind, was a single mark, a claw. Scratched into metal, carved into stone, burned into flesh, the same claw. 5 curved lines drawn in blood or fire, the symbol of the first one, Earth's. Top intelligence analysts still didn't know his goals. He hadn't claimed territory. He hadn't demanded anything. He was just watching. But watching meant learning, and learning for someone like him meant judging. In Earth's deep orbit defense station, Captain Ray stared at the screen feed. From a listening post, showed a short burst of ancient Varnak script transmitted not on normal channels, but through gravitational pulses, not radio, not light, something older. Something no modern species used anymore. The translation came slowly. It read, "One species. One chance? Show me who you are." Captain Ray leaned back, tense. "Is this a challenge?" she asked. "No," said the AI translator. "It's a test." Light years away, aboard a human stealth vessel in deep space, Defender operative Kyra Vale floated in silence. Her squad had been tracking strange wreck ships torn open, but with no signs of heat damage or known weapons. The pieces were clean, precise like autopsies. They'd followed the trail here, to the ruins of an old Varnock transport station, but it wasn't empty. Motion sensors caught something big. Moving slow, deliberate, one figure Kara gave the order, full stealth, no noise, no lights. But it was too late, he knew. She turned to look through the cockpit and then she saw him, not on screens, not through tech. He stood outside, floating in zero gravity. No armor, no suit, just there, tall, broad, covered in ancient natural armor that seemed part of his flesh. Eyes like dim stars, glowing with age. No weapon in his hand, but power in every move. The first one. She froze not from fear, but from instinct. This thing wasn't like the others. He didn't feel like a Varnock. He felt older. She didn't move, and neither did he. For several seconds, they stared at each other through reinforced glass. Then he raised one hand, 5 fingers spread wide, then curled inward. Slowly, a claw. The same mark burned into every wreck, and then it was gone. No explosion, no blast. Just silence. Kyra didn't breathe for several minutes. When Earth received her transmission, didn't believe it at first. No ship can do that, one commander said. No Varnock can move that fast. But it wasn't a Varnock anymore. It was something more. Something watching. The Varnock High Council. What was left of it finally responded. They sent a transmission not to Earth, but to the first one himself. Their words were desperate. We offer you respect. We offer you title. We offer you command. Come home. The reply came instantly. You lost your right to command. Now I watch you as I watch the humans, and I will decide who is fit to remain. Earth's scientists didn't know what to do with that. He sees himself as a judge, one theorist said. Not a conqueror, not a god. A judge. But of what? Captain Ray read through hundreds of old Varnock myths, digging deep into hidden files. Most of it was propaganda. But one story stood out. An ancient text, digitized and translated long ago, spoke of a claw who walks alone, a being who once ended wars not by force, but by choosing which side deserved to exist, and the way he chose. By watching, studying, testing, he would judge a species based not on their strength, but on their purpose. That's when Ray understood. Earth's war against the Varnock wasn't just about survival. It was a statement. Humanity had shown the galaxy something dangerous, that even prey could fight back, that rebellion could become strategy, that the oppressed could become defenders. And now, the first one was watching to see if humanity deserved that power, if their purpose was real, or just vengeance wearing a hero's face. The next signal came in the form of a challenge, a set of coordinates. Empty space. No planets. No stations. But when Earth's fleet arrived, they found something terrifying. A field of broken ships. Dozens. Human. Varnock. Alien. All destroyed long ago. Drifting like bones. But one pod remained active. Inside, a single life form. Not human. Not Varnock. A species long thought extinct. The ship AI identified it. Gravani. The Gravani had been the first to resist Varnock conquest centuries ago. They fought hard, almost won, until they vanished. No trace, no records, and now, one survivor kept alive in Stas. By him, the first one had saved this being not out of kindness, but as proof of what happens when a species refuses to change. When they forget who they are. Captain Ray met with the Gravani in a secure facility. He spoke slowly, weak but wise. You must understand, he said. He doesn't kill without reason. He ends what is broken. He leaves what can grow. Does he want from us? Ray asked. The Gravani looked at her with tired eyes. Truth, not in words, in action. Back in deep space. The first one stood again on a dead world, alone. He watched a human documentary on a stolen data slate, children learning history. Scientists debating ethics, people protesting war. He tilted his head. Not predators. Not prey. Something. In between, he placed the slate down. Carved another mark in the stone. One trial remains. The warning came without a voice. No explosion. No message. No fleet in orbit. Just a growing shadow at the edge of space. The first one was coming, and Earth was not ready. Captain Ray stood in Earth's orbital command staring at the hollow. Blue map. A red circle blinked in the outer solar system Neptune's orbit. Something massive had entered, but they couldn't see it. The sensors glitched. Satellites froze. Then a second later melted. One by one, then the transmissions stopped altogether. The only message left was a short pulse. One signal. I am near, Commander. Talek stood behind her, arms crossed. He's not just watching anymore. He's here, and he's picking the battlefield. He wants us to come to him, Ray replied. Or test if we'll hide. Silence filled the command room. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth had faced the Varnock Empire. One that war rebuilt. But this was different. There was no army, no invasion, just one ancient being. One mind, one judgment. And if Earth failed, extinction wouldn't come from war, but from being unworthy. Across the stars, old Varnock. Outposts shut down. Entire clans disappeared, going into hiding. The name He Who Judges echoed through pirate networks and black market channels, but it was humans he focused on now. Every ship that approached the signal vanished, not destroyed, just gone, until one came back. A science vessel. Small, civilian. Piloted by 2 students from Luna Academy. They hadn't meant to get close, they'd been exploring. Anomalies, but they had made contact and returned alive. Their logs showed the moment. An enormous object alive but not biological appeared beside them. Not a ship, not an asteroid. Moved with intention. Then a voice came through their ship's systems, through the hull, even inside their minds. Tell your people, come, but not with fire. Come with truth. The council debated for hours. Weapons, diplomacy, ignore it. Ray stood and spoke clearly. He doesn't want to destroy us. If he did, we'd already be gone. This is a test, and we have to answer. But how? One senator asked. With who we are, Ray said. Not what we've built. The mission was approved. One ship. No weapons. No fleet support. Just a team of 5 humans. Handpicked from Earth's most trusted explorers, diplomats, and historians. Captain Ray would lead them. The ship, Unity Spear. Their objective, face the first one. Speak, survive, understand. Their backup. Plan, none. As Unity Spear approached the coordinates, the stars seemed to bend. Reality pulsed. The crew felt cold, even though the heat systems worked fine. Then he appeared, not in front of them, inside, not as a body, but as a presence. The lights dimmed. Walls flickered with strange runes. Air grew heavy. Captain Ray stood at the center console. We came unarmed. Yes, the voice said. Not a sound. Thought inside their minds. You came, ... human. Speak, it continued. Why do you build your power? Why do you defend your world? Ray looked at her team, then stepped forward, because no one else will, she said. We fight not to destroy, but to keep what's ours. To give others the right to grow as we did. Silence. Then another question. You end wars, but do you end hate? She swallowed. No, we try. But no species is perfect, not even ours. And yet you spread. Ray nodded. Yes, because we believe in choice, because we know what it's like to be hunted. You rose against the Varnock. You burned them. We had to. Would you do it again? Ray took a breath. If we were attacked again? Yes, but if we can stop. Another war before it starts, we will. You are young, the voice said, but not foolish. The walls grew brighter. Then a final question, then answer this. If I chose to erase the Varnock, completely end them, so they can never harm again, would you allow it? The crew froze. Silence. Ray's voice was soft, careful. No. Why? Because even monsters can change. We don't get to decide who lives. Not alone, not anymore. The room filled with a deep vibration. Was it laughter or thought? They couldn't tell. The presence faded. The lights returned. Then a single word echoed, clear and sharp. Worthy. Back on Earth, every system lit up again. The satellites returned online. The red mark on the map vanished, and in its place. New signal. Open friendly with one message. The trial has ended. You may walk forward. But remember, I still watch. Then he was gone. No explosion, no farewell. Just gone. But humanity would never forget the moment they were judged. By something older than war itself. Not with hate, not with fire, but with truth. And they had passed. Earth celebrated too early. The first one had left. Humanity had passed the trial. No more signals, no more silent threats. It's just quiet stars. News channels called it the Great Judgment. Memes spread. Politicians made speeches. Children played. With plastic claws. But in the quiet corners of space, something was stirring. The Varnock were not extinct, and the ones who remained were no longer hiding aboard the Unity Spear. Captain Ray stood in the observation deck, staring out at the dark side of Europa. Her crew was resting after the contact with the first one. But Ray couldn't sleep. She felt something off, like something was still watching. Not him. It's not the first one. Something else. Then a ping came in off record, low bandwidth. An old smuggler's channel, untraceable. The voice was rough, broken, scared. This is Krell Thorn Exmerk, Sector 19. I found them. The Varnock. They're alive. They've changed. Static cut in. Not ships things. Machines with minds. And they're not afraid of him. They're waiting for the message ended. Just gone. No trace. But the coordinates remained. Ray stared at them. Sector 19, edge of the Kuiper Belt. Too close for comfort. She knew what had to be done. Back on Earth, the Global Defense Council was split. We can't go chasing ghosts, said one general, but Ray pushed back. You're wrong. They're not ghosts. They're shadows. Shadows don't vanish. They grow. Eventually, they approved a recon mission. Small. Quiet. No firepower, just eyes. If the Varnock had returned, Earth needed to know. Ray's team launched undercover. Her pilot was Juno Cade, a former Varnock war prisoner. Smart, fast, and angry. She had history. Why me? Juno asked. During flight prep, because you won't blink, Ray replied, and because you know how they think. The Scout Echo was tiny, barely armed. It's perfect for slipping into quiet space. But when they reached Sector 19, nothing looked normal. There was no fleet, no signal, just dust rocks, and a dark shape hanging in the void. It looked like a moon, but it was. As they got closer, the hull began to hum. Sensors failed. Time felt slower. Then lights blinked on dozens of glowing eyes, arranged in spirals across the surface of the moon. It wasn't a moon at all. It was alive. A Varnock living station. Not metal. It's not bone. Something new. Something built from biotech and stolen mines. Ray ordered a silent scan. The data was terrifying. The station was powered by something they couldn't explain. No reactor. No sun draw, just thought, energy brainwaves. From inside, they were using mines as fuel. Tens of thousands of beings Zellian and human, kept alive in neural sleep. Harvested for power. Juno turned pale. They've turned thinking into fire. Then the message came. Straight into the ship's core. We see you, defenders. You were judged, but not by us. We don't need approval. We need only time, and now we have it. A shockwave burst from the station. No heat, no explosion, just silence. Scout Echo's engines shut down. They were drifting. Ray shouted orders. Juno fought the controls. But nothing worked. Then the lights inside the ship went red. A figure appeared. On the screen, not Varnock, not human. A fusion of both. It wore armor fused to flesh, metal where bone should be, eyes like twin suns, cold and bright. We are the risen Varnock. We are not Empire. We are evolution. Then it cut off. The engines returned. The lights stabilized. But the message was clear. The Varnock were not the same. They were becoming something worse, back on Earth. Ray gave her report. They're building living weapons. They don't fear. The first one, why not? Councilman asked. Because they plan to replace him. The room fell silent. If they're making machines from minds, they might be building a judge of their own. Meanwhile, in deep space, a single claw symbol burned onto a dead moon. The first. One had seen the Varnock's new shape, but he did not move. Not yet. He was watching again, waiting, because this time he might not stop them alone. This time, humanity would have to choose destroy the new Varnock or become what they feared. Space twisted above Jupiter. The shadows were back. Not pirates, not lost fleets. The risen Varnock had arrived. No longer just soldiers. They were living ships. Sentient machines grown from war and pain, half flesh, half metal. Powered by harvested minds, they moved in silence. No transmissions. No mercy. Their leader, being once known as Commander Corral, now called himself the Crown of Judgment. And his message rang across every human channel. You were tested by one old predator. Now face the future. We do not judge. We remove. On Earth, chaos broke out, the Council argued. Defense networks activated. Orbit-based cannons warmed up. But Ray already knew this was more than a war. This was a decision. Fight like monsters, or stand for something more. The first one had watched them before. Now he was watching again, but he wouldn't interfere unless he saw who truly deserved to stand as apex. It was humanity's last chance, not just to survive, but to prove they were more than just clever animals. Aboard the Unity Spear, Ray stood with her crew, Juno, Elan, Dr. Voss, General Amani, each chosen not for weapons but for purpose. The Council wanted nukes. Ray wanted something else, a message. She broadcasted across all frequencies. We know you can kill us, but before you try, hear this. You ran from a past filled with fire. We walked through it. You evolved in fear. We evolved in hope. We feed on thought. We defend it. You are not gods. Your echoes. We are the answer. The Crown responded with violence. 5 bioships emerged from behind Europa. Their hulls shimmered like liquid metal. Spikes retracted and fired. One pulse struck Earth's orbital ring, splitting a defense tower in half. Ray's voice didn't waver. Engage. Evasive. No return fire. What? Juno snapped. We'll be torn apart. Ray stared out the viewport. We don't fight with fear. We fight with meaning. On the far side of the solar system, something moved. Not fast, not loud, but massive. The first one. Watching. Waiting. And when Ray made her next move, he acted in a surprise maneuver. Ray ordered the Unity Spear to dive straight toward the enemy. No weapons, just light. She opened the core and broadcast humanity's deepest files. Art, music, war crimes, apologies, dreams, everything that made them human, unfiltered. The Varnock ships hesitated, their minds merged with an eye, tried to understand what they were seeing. Emotion, sorrow, growth. One of the smaller Varnock ships stopped firing. It turned, fired on its own kind. The first one appeared above Saturn. No ship, just him, glowing with old energy. Moving faster than light, gravity bending around him. He extended one clawed hand toward the battlefield. The Crown screamed in ancient Varnock language. You failed us. The first one did not answer with words. He answered with truth. A beam of thought, pure judgment struck the largest. Varnak vessel, it didn't explode. It folded. Crushed by the weight of what it refused to become, the crown survived, but barely. Turned toward Earth. One last scream. You defend your weakness, and Ray replied. We defend the right to grow. The crown charged. Ray closed her eyes. The Unity spear braced, and then he stopped. Frozen, mid-dash strike. Not by force, but by choice. The first one stood behind him. No claws raised, just silence, and slowly. The crown faded into ash, not destroyed, released. War was over, but not with fire, with decision. Humanity had chosen not to match violence with more violence. They had shown what it meant to evolve, to stand not as conquerors, but as defenders. On Earth, the news called it the Judgment War. Children learned the story. Artists painted the last stand over Europa. The claw symbol of the first one became a mark of peace. And somewhere, deep in space, he watched, still silent, still waiting. But this time, not to judge, to protect. Because now, finally, he was not alone.